Greetings in the best of salutations. How do you develop a correct historical perspective of truth? How do you develop a correct historical perspective on truth? Really, I don't know. But let's explore just a little bit because things need to be put in the proper context, the perspective. I realize that one perception becomes his or her perspective. Perception is not reality, but is on its way to reality. So it's like coming to a end product or a end result unto a conclusion. I realize that planet Earth is a sociological structure. Socialization. The fish is in the water, the birds are in the air, and things that creepeth upon the earth or the ground and under the ground, under the earth. There is 1,000 species and they don't necessarily interact with one another. If they interact with one another, it could be for prey, prey on other species in their weakness. So, if humans have a faculty of reason and in the misuse of that faculty of reasoning and their limbs, that people will exploit, a mentality of a people will exploit one's tendencies, or their tendencies is to a particular behavior or a particular nature that they see in animals, that they see in themselves. And if they study it properly, the nature and value the nature, I'm talking about the nature in the historical perspective, in the proper context of caring and nurturing one another and not dominating one another. That's putting things in the correct and proper perspective. But when they look at it in theories and evolution, only the strong survives in an animalistic point of view, then therefore they go about exploiting or being consumed by their tendencies, their urges and instincts of dominating other human beings, and which creates a setback in the evolutionary process of one's mental capacity for learning and getting along in harmony with one another, living at peace with one another. Well, some say this had always happened, a reference point. They can't go beyond a reference point of a Bible or scripture or some religious text and say, well, wherever it is, surely we Buddhists will say we're going to suffer. Say suffering is a part of life. They say, well, we have been killing each other from the beginning. No one likes to suffer. No one wants to go through the pain of seeing another person in pain. Do you think other species like to see their other species in pain or hurt? No. That is of their kind. That is of their kind. Kind like a kindergarten. Kindergarten, a kindy. A kinder garden of diversity. A kind of garden of living and generosity and being kind with one another in this garden, this paradise of earth, on earth. So the battlegrounds in developing one's historical and understand the correct historical perspective of truth. The battlegrounds is ideological, in the war psychological. So it is a ideological conflict or ideal or an idea that someone has come up with in developing his or her perspective in the context of that which they call truth. Because truth is the cause that affects one's reality. And that's based on anthropology, how you interpret reality. If there's any difference between anything in any society, it is climatic. Any people is climatic. The environment, so that's what I'm saying, developing one in historical context, developing one's perspective when it comes to truth. Truth to me is the cause that impacts and affects the results of one's reality. I was looking at some of the recently. I was looking at some of the listening to and then trying to embody the influences, these tendencies of influence to a particular behavior, and how people create these entertainment, create laws and policies and rules and regulations and entertainment and all these other things that control a certain industrious we're industrial people. We are created to be productive. Excuse me. And I listened to some of the prize fighters in the training that they had to go through, the sacrifices that they have to make. It's like parents who make sacrifice for their children that they had to go through. But the environment in which some people come out of shapes them. It molds them. It develops them. It develops their truth. Some children who grew up in a certain era in life, in certain areas, is that, when it comes to being impoverished or poverty and so forth, so that did not cross their mind. And when they got a little older, because they probably thought that, hey, this was natural. Then when they got a little older, they realized this wasn't natural. That's just not the way to live. So when we talk about developing one's historical perspective when it comes to truth, humans is not designed, really, man created. The best of humans is not designed to be at odds with one another, man. But we have accepted this as the norm. Someone has to challenge that ideology, man. I don't care if it's any religion that says, okay, well, this has always happened, man. No, man, that's the far as you can go. That's limited in your thinking. Creation at its best is the abundance of a community which we come into to complement the best of creation. the best of the plants, the best of the seeds. But many people who want to control the means of productivity, they want the best for themselves. To hell with everybody else. So we impose our ideologies, our philosophy, our views on others. Very conceited and very arrogant, but conceited in many have become conceited and conceited in their delusion. Very delusional. Have become mentally incapacitated with being unable to reason one with another because you have become delusional. Wrong them not, because you have been wrong yourself. The human, very frailty, very, very fragile, very fragile, very ignorant in our own artificial understand. Artificials are being artificial and very superficial. But the influence, what I'm trying to say, these tendencies that humans have, something or a mentality and a thinking based upon the perspective and one's perception when it comes to developing historical truth, says this is just how it is, and this is not the case. This is a reality. This planet Earth is designed for us. Of course, the Earth has an appetite and it absorbs, but it's designed for us to develop what is called, in the latter terms, a moral life. That's in the latter terms, a moral life. That's a new term, I should say, but a moral life. You know, when you sit at the table with your family, certain things you should not do. And your family would say, hey, and this is not how you should do this. This is not, you should not belch at the table. That's developing moral life. Because we're here to learn from one another. See, we get so stuck on what we call religion, texts, whatever we read, we're stuck on that. And we can't build from it. And then we start worshiping that, and that becomes that's like an idol. That becomes idol. And then we start worshiping people. Falling out, foaming at the mouth. And then we got people who has been elevated, who have made it materially. They just have fallen victims to the collective psychology mentality of a people through their conceited and arrogance. When a person is conceited and arrogant, he or she is not gifted with guidance. He or she is deviated. So you go among the land uninhibited. You're going on the land like no one is checking you. Like you ain't gonna be able to deal with the consequences of your actions. You're not gonna be able to. You don't want to deal with the consequences of your actions. So you put this out there. What you put out there, what you think gonna come back in return. Man, people are very delusional, man. Very emotionally deranged. And when a person is emotional, is delusional and deranged, he or she has not the capacity to reason. And when a person has not the capacity to reason, he or she knows that a demon is present. That's very demonic, very diabolical and demonic. Demos, krasi. Is this the democracy that is being promoted and perpetuated? And this is a government that is set up, whether communism, whether socialism, whether Marxism, the thought, the thinking, the idea, is this what is set up? A government where our people are governed, is governed by a demonic force, is driven and guided in a demonic way, interact one with another in a very demonic way, that we elect people based on some type of bull jive, the so-called party, as if it's fun, and your vote's supposed to give you value when you don't have value in yourself, participating in this demonic activity. And someone got to check this and bring awareness to this silly stuff, man. People suffering and dying on the streets, man, every day. You got these sick politicians in office. You got sick clergy. You got sick people. You got sick society. Shit, I'm sick. In order to get cured, you got to must first admit that you're sick. So, solution, the social sciences and the spiritual sciences. We have a social life and we have this spiritual life. Spiritual is one's natural growth or natural evolutionary process of developing unto complete maturity. Spiritually. And then you go about doing that and interacting with people socially. In a mature, healthy, whole manner. Go beyond what is called superficially race. Go beyond what is superficially called class, gender, economics, politics, religion, and also education. And did I say culture? Because we have to take a serious politics, anything. We have to take a very serious look at education in the academic field. If it becomes destructive, we have to take a very serious look at it. Culture, if it becomes very destructive, we got to take a very destructive and divisive. Politics, destructive and divisive. Have to take a very serious look at it. Race, when it becomes divisive and destructive, we have to take a very serious look at it. Religion, we got divisive and divisive. We got to take a very serious look at it. Gender, when it becomes divisive and divisive and destructive, we got to take a very serious look at it. Class, when it comes divisive and destructive, we got to take a very serious look at it. We have to take a very serious look and a serious diagnosis of ourselves when we become divisive and destructive. You think about that. You say you're a scholar, you say you educated, you say, yeah, you got a lot of influence. What are you doing with your influence? Who do you think you are? We call ourselves to be human. Huh? How come we ain't unable to get along? So that's a human tendency. But have we should have gotten to a point where we have completely evolved and matured human beings. Who has a monopoly on intelligence? I tell you, the consciousness of people, of human beings are rising up. You cannot suppress the consciousness of the people. I ain't talking about race. I ain't talking about class. I ain't talking gender. I ain't talking economics. I'm talking about people. People are conscious and they resist when if you got a capitalist society, the laborers resist that. When there is something wrong, people resist. They know it. It's in their nature to resist anything that is not wrong and correct. But the energy must be channeled properly. So there must be something or someone or a group of people, whoever how you want, must come and say, man, let's channel that energy properly, because Kwame Ture said this here, that the duty of the conscious is to make the unconscious aware of their unconscious behavior. That's what he says. Dr. King says we must move from a thing-orientated society to a people-orientated society. Huh? Marcus Garvey said he or she is twice, whoever has no confidence is twice defeated. Intelligence rules the world, ignorance bears the burden. Huh? Elijah Muhammad said that vision stems from the source of one's thinking. Huh? Sister, what's the sister name? Talking about no strong leader need no strong people. Ella Baker, no strong, hey, you strong people, because there is a misleadership. That's why leadership for me is coordination. When people say I speak from the authority of God, that's bull crap, bull junk. I speak from the authority of resilience, so you have to, because resiliency is the author of success. All those cells biologically, and you and I made it. We are chosen people. So who says you are the chosen people? Huh? What makes you more? What makes you that you are excluded? That you are separate? In this whole universe, the universal order, this cosmic, and when it comes to cosmic intelligence, if I may use that word. So someone said cosmic slop. Well, this cosmic intelligence ain't sloppy. It ain't about a slippery slope. Before anything manifests itself, it must first have order. Well, you put law before order. How can law go before order? Order goes before law. Discipline precedes knowledge, and orientation precedes education. So it's about the orientation, how we've been orientated. Some sick stuff out here, man. You know, John Lennon said psychopaths rule the world. Einstein said the same level of consciousness that created the problem won't solve the problem. Then we got the introduction of drugs, the breakup of the family, living together in harmony and one with another. That's not important. Annuity, equity. So there must be an investment, as one would say, Brother Imam Muhammad said, an investment in the soul, in your own soul, an investment. Soul power, soul peace, peace, man, peace. And be not deceived by the uninhibited movement of those who have money and wealth and power, because they will use you to justify their behavior, their ideology, their psychology, and their philosophy when it comes to this monolithic structure. They will bring you on board. You the next Maya Angelou. Ain't that something? And if you're not used to that type of attention, then they give it to you. And you are benefiting from it financially to the exposure. Exposure to is important. How come everyone, some people, is it a lucky draw from the straw? That one gets more exposure than the next person, or one makes more money than the next person? Is that a lucky draw from the straw? Well, we all got the same type of exposure and the opportunity for us to be on this plane of existence. Creating this hate psychosis, man. Medium of exchange, currency. It says we should be endowed with certain unalienable right, which means it's not foreign to live a quality life. That which is lost is to live a quality life. I'm talking about for all humanity. As James Foreman would say, hey man, if we all can't sit at the table, we gonna knock the sucker, he say we're gonna knock the legs off. And I don't want to use his correct words. The more and more one tries to be a decent and honorable human being and integrates into a system that has no moral conscience, that is very hypocritical, the more and more you become as it. Because if you are not in it to dismantle it, to eradicate it, to change it, then you become it. And that's how it is in our thinking. That's how it is in our thoughts. That's how it is in our feelings. That's how it is in our attitude. That's how it is in our language, in the manner in which we communicate. And that's how it is in our actions. That's how it is. You become it. That's a struggle, ain't it? That's a struggle. Let us continue to be careful in our interacting with one another in the best of ways, not to be very presumptuous, and realize that our perception is very limited. No one has been on what they call been somewhere on the other side and came back and told us, this is how it is. And if they have, more power to them. But we have to deal with the reality right here and now. As one brother says, Bob Marley, he says, if you look for life, if you know what life is worth, you will look for yours here on earth. And now you've seen the light. Stand up for your right. The right for self-determination. These tendencies of our nature, human nature, our instinct and our emotions, the influence of what our mother and father been through and what they lived through and what many of us are going through. It is shaping and molding us. And it is determining and developing in the context or the content and also in the context of resulting into our historical perspective of truth. And truth, for me, is the cause that impacts and affects the results of my reality. Because if someone is controlling your reality through technology, through economics, through education, socially, politically, religiously, through genderism, socialism, capitalism, communalism, communism. Says there is no schisms in the body, all these isms. It's controlling the content within the context, if I may use that, surrounding circumstances in determining or developing one's historical perspective of truth. We have limited ourselves to a point that we have deviated so far off the path that we may have come to a point of no return. So I say the call is to come back to one's humanity. We are born in a condition, placed in a situation, surrounded by circumstances. Consequently, is due to some previous activity that has taken place. Whether the hurt, whether it's the pain, whether it's the love, whether it's the care. That which influences us and shapes and develops within the context of perspective of one's reality. The reality that someone wants for you. What about the reality that you want for yourself? What about the reality that we want with the correct interpretation of the stars, the moon, and the sun? That they all live in harmony with one another. And the planets have a magnetic force as they evolve. That they let nothing contaminate it come close to it. It says that there are 9 entries and 9 exits on the body. 9 is the multiple number. As it is above, so shall it be below. Nine. The manner and way in which we communicate as a family, our humanity, we use our talents, our skills, our abilities, and our resources. When it comes to family, how we communicate and interact with one another. Just look at how we interacting and communicating with one another. It says you have dominion over the fish, the air, the fowl. I use that, but you don't have dominion over man. It's just domineering. How can you try to control others when you are out of control yourself? That's very hypocritical. Very hypocritical. I pray for all those, if I may use that word prayer, in a positive manner, in a positive way, for my immediate ancestors who have went before me. May they continue, they have found peace. The soul has found peace and rest. And those who are present in this plane of existence, and those also who are not a part of my immediate ancestral pool, that they find rest. And but we just want to rest and find peace, reset, realign ourselves, and live in harmony on this plane of existence. Live in peace. When people make their transition, they say rest in peace. Reset is a reset. It's a realignment. Balance, man. Balance. Egalitarian society. Until next time, talk to you.